Good afternoon, everyone. This is week number 3, discussion response. I definitely thought that the video this week was very valuable. I think that what the speaker talked about is so applicable to everyday life, and that brokenness is not always ugly. Sometimes it is in the moment, but we can use that brokenness to put us back together in a more beautiful way. And I think that was really wonderful that she is challenging us to see that even in creativity, because creativity it's one of those things that you don't always feel like you get it right the first time. Sometimes with creativity, you use your hands to create something and it doesn't always turn out the way you hoped, or maybe it does, but then it falls apart. And I think the question is, what are we going to do? And when our creativity falls apart, are we going to reconstruct it to make it look beautiful, or are we going to allow it to just sit there broken and disregard it? So to answer the questions of this week, how do you reconcile ugliness and beauty? And I think you reconcile those things and how you see them, because ugliness isn't necessarily brokenness, but some people view brokenness as ugliness. But for those who use those broken pieces to build something beautiful out of those pieces, it can be beautiful. It's not always ugly when things are broken and put back together. Okay, what do you make of the quote that time transforms the event? I definitely thought about the 9/11 attacks when answering this question, and I just think that over time, sometimes the way we remember an event changes. And so it's really important, this is also tying in the next question of urgency, it's really important to capture something in the moment, and to capture in that specific circumstance the atmosphere. The atmosphere was very dark and heavy and sad and devastating, and it was really important for that photographer to get in there right away, because there definitely was a sense of sadness long after, and still today, of that event. But there was something so unique about right afterwards, right in that moment. It was really important to capture what was going on and what the atmosphere was, because it was so heavy. And it's really important to capture those moments, like the photographer said, not just to capture emotion, but to capture history. And I think that's really important, because, like I said, if we forget over time the magnitude of an event, we can forget history. And I think that's really important that we capture that in the moment. And, we have that ability today, whereas I think way back before technology, they didn't necessarily have that ability to take a picture. They had to write things down. And that's how we know the history of long ago, before technology, was because people remembered what happened in the moment and they wrote it down. All right. Do I believe creativity is essential to my life? Where and how? I think yes, because creativity is an outlet where we give back and we use our hands to create something. And creating something isn't necessarily artsy. I know a lot of people aren't necessarily artsy. Me, myself, I think maybe a little bit. I do like to make things look pretty and to, put displays together and things like that. But I think creativity can be as simple as like a recipe, or even just creating a family, or creating a home. I think those are really beautiful things that, in our essence, just as human beings, we all want to create in some way. And that's not just in artsy ways, but I think it's just in everyday life. There's so many ways that we can just create, and I think it's very life-giving when we give of ourselves to create something. All right, what do I think of the idea of something being more beautiful after it's been broken? Wow, that's such a good question. I just think that when something is broken, it causes us to question, why did it break? Because what we thought was perfect wasn't. It broke. And what's more important, for something to be unbreakable or for something to have been broken and been rebuilt? I think there's so much beauty in that. And even if something is beautiful from the beginning, even if it looks totally perfect, it doesn't have a story to tell until after it's been broken. And when we look at something broken, it causes us to ask the question, why did it break and how did it get put back together? So when something is broken, it has a story to tell. How can we apply this to this course in writing? And I kind of typed out one thing and I started thinking about something totally different, but in writing, the first time is not always perfect. In fact, the first time can be pretty rough. But in that moment when our first try is kind of broken down into the nitty-gritty, we can try again with those broken pieces to create something even more beautiful. And I think it's really important to look at our writing that way. Not that it has to be perfect the first time, but how can we learn from those mistakes to build something even more beautiful? All right, guys, those are my thoughts for this week. I'm looking forward to hearing your responses. Thank you.